Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us here this morning to celebrate the glorious life of our beloved Gladys Ann Hudson. I'm Reverend Colleen Tanaka, and Gladys and I have been friends since she moved to Las Vegas in the fall of 1990. I was in my late 20s, and she was in her mid-50s, having just moved here to start a new chapter in her life. We quickly became dear friends. Gladys is the godmother to our children, Luke and Dana, and was even in the delivery room with us. It was Gladys's wish that Reverend Richard Walter and I officiate her service and that Dr. Martinette Stevens lift us up in song. I'm overwhelmingly gratified and privileged to fulfill her wishes, and we added a few things, accessorized, if you will, which Gladys would appreciate. Gladys knew about good accessories. So this Monday, June 20th, would have been Gladys's 87th birthday. And the last few times I saw her, every time I saw her, she would remind me, you know, I'm going to be 87 in July. Or in June, pardon me, in June. Her birthday was 1 week after mine. So we chose to have this service near her birthday because this is a celebration of her wonderful life. We're going to celebrate Gladys in word, song, pictures, and prayer. I know Gladys is here with us. I feel her presence, and I know she's grateful that you are here too. Thank you. Practitioner Emeritus Elmarie Farr-Walter was scheduled to do our invocation today, but unfortunately is not able to be here. So I am going to open us with prayer, followed by some special music by Martinette. So I invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you as we open in prayer. Beloved Spirit, thank you for this opportunity to come together to celebrate our beloved Gladys. I know that each person here has been touched deeply by her life and their relationship with Gladys. I know that there is only one life, that life is eternal, that Gladys has gone on to the next experience before us, but that she lives on, and that she is as present in our lives in a different form than she was before. That she lives as much as she ever had, and for this I am so grateful. And so I know this time together is joyous, it's celebratory, and we also come together to comfort one another in the physical loss that we feel, knowing that we will miss her physical presence and her warm, beautiful hugs and glorious smile in our lives. But I know that her spirit lives within me, and it lives within each one of us, and for that I am truly grateful. So I know that our time together this morning is blessed, that each of us is lifted up, and each of us receives a gift from the Spirit that brought this service together, and Gladys is certainly a part of that. So I know that all is well and unfolds with grace and ease, and for this I am truly grateful. And so it is.
I used to think I wanted to be famous, and I'd be recognized out in a crowd. But the funny thing is, every time I've gotten what I want, it lets me down. Yeah. Now I just wanna look more like love. I just wanna give more of my love. You see, this whole world is spinning crazy, and I can't quite keep up. But there's one thing around here that we can all use more of, and I just wanna be a little more think I needed all the answers. I used to need to know that I was right. I used to be afraid of things I couldn't cover up in black and white. Now I just want to be more like her. I just want to look more like her. You see, this whole world is getting crazy, and I can't quite keep up. But there's one thing around here we can all use more of, and I just want to be more love. I find the further that I climb, there's always another line of mountaintops. Oh, never, never's never gonna stop. And the more of anything I do, the thing that always ends up true is getting what I want. It's never quite enough. Now I just want to look more like love. I just want to be more like love. You see, this whole world is spinning crazy, and I can't quite keep up. But there's one thing around here that we can all use more of, and I just want to look a little more. I just want to give a little more. Ooh, I just want to look a little more like love. I just want to give a little more love, a little more love. I just want to be more love, more love, more love, like love.
Thank you, Martinette. That was beautiful. Sounds like an anthem for Gladys's life. So Gladys became a member of the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Las Vegas when she moved here from Southern California in the fall of 1990. I would like to introduce to you, many of you already know her, Reverend Laura Hallett, who is the Senior Minister for Center for Spiritual Living Greater Las Vegas, to pay tribute to Gladys's decades of service. Reverend Laura.
Thank you, Reverend Colleen. It was my pleasure to be the final senior minister for Gladys. She truly was an inspiration for all of us. Gladys Hudson, practitioner emeritus. A religious science practitioner is one who consciously dedicates their life in service to the unfoldment of their individual soul and the upliftment of the others around them through practicing the science of mind principles, philosophy, and the spiritual practices on a regular and consistent basis. It requires a minimum of 4 years of study, of self-exploration, of individual determination, and a lot of gut-wrenching work to become a licensed spiritual practitioner. Gladys became a practitioner in 1986, and after more than 20 years of dedicated service to Centers for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas, and to our entire organization, Gladys was awarded the Emeritus status. This is a status that's given to a practitioner after a minimum of 20 years of dedicated service to our organization. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, called our religious science practitioners the healing arm of our philosophy. He wrote this about practitioners. Only people who have a great love for other people make good practitioners. Only people whose tolerance has passed into understanding make good practitioners. Only people who have a natural or developed inclination and ability to feel that invisible indwelling presence make good practitioners. Gladys Ann Hudson embodied all of this. She was renowned throughout her movement for her loving spirit, her dedication to the principles of science and mind, and her generous service to the youth of Centers for Spiritual Living. When we sent this announcement out about our service, the comments came in wide and far from practitioners and ministers and youth members of our organization. Some of these things her colleagues and children that she served had to say about our beloved Gladys were, she was the kindest of souls, a precious being, a beautiful human, an amazing spirit, a dear soul, and funny as hell. Reverend Eunice Chalfont remembers the profound contribution that Gladys made to the youth of CSL. Reverend Patty Rumza recalls the joy of working with Gladys to prepare that sacred space for our youth to explore and discover the best of themselves. Reverend Mary Maurice Shelton recalls the impact that Gladys had on her own son, Luke, when he attended youth camp. She says, Gladys had a profound effect on Luke, and I thank her for who she was and all she did for the youth of our beloved organization. And one of those former youth members, now Reverend Sarah Adams, writes this, I love Gladys for the wisdom, the grace, and the humor she brought to the teens at youth camp. She made a beautiful impact on me. These beloved comments speak so truly and dearly to who our Gladys was and the service that she provided our organization. Truly her effect on the members of our community and the members of CSL worldwide have a lasting impact and will go on for generations. Thank you, Gladys, for your service.
Yes.
Thank you, Laura. Just want to mention that the flowers here in front were created by Kaylee Marshall, the daughter of our practitioner, Kelly Marshall, who is in the youth program at our church. And I just thought it was so fitting and beautiful that a young person made these flowers for Gladys. And our daughter, Dana, another young person, you're still young, made these flowers for Gladys. So I want to share a few reflections about Gladys, and then following that, you'll have the opportunity, if you would like to share your favorite memory of Gladys if you feel called to. In January of 1993, Gladys was in the delivery room with us when our son Luke was being born. I was in excruciating pain. I had been affirming that life flows through me for months, but that seemed to not work at all in the moment. So I was laying there, unmedicated, in so much pain, I could not speak, and I could not even open my eyes. So eventually I mustered up, I need an epidural. And I got one, and then everything was a big party after that. And Luke was born. So while I was laying there and could not speak and could not open my eyes, I kept hearing in my mind, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. And it allowed me to hang in there. So sometime, I don't remember how long it was, if it was days or a couple of weeks, that Gladys was over at the house with baby Luke, and we were talking about the birthday. And I said to Gladys, oh, that was rough. Until I got the epidural, that was really rough. I said, but thank God, I just kept hearing in my mind, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And Gladys smiled at me and she said, I could not stay in the room and see you in so much pain. Sorry. She goes, so I stepped out of the room and sat in the chair right outside the door and prayed for you. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. Gladys was a friend that was always there for you. A loyal, loving, encouraging, and supportive friend. Gladys valued and nurtured her relationships. Gladys had many, many lifelong relationships. And her friends, she considered her family, truly. Her son Keith, her only child, lived in Germany with his 2 sons, and her grandson Kyle lived here. But all of us here in Southern California and Indiana were her family. She was a proud mother to Keith, a mother-in-law to Wendy and Ruth, and a grandmother to her grandsons Kyle, Max, and Ben, and godmother to our children, Luke and Dana. She considered many of us here in this room her children and her grandchildren, Ilana. And each one of our lives has been so richly blessed by being adopted by Gladys. And Gladys expressed pride in all of us. I remember being at the hospital, Lester and I, with Keith, and we were all sitting in a circle around her bed, and she was bragging about Ilana, and she was bragging about Luke and Dana to Keith, and then she was bragging about Lester and bragging about me, and then when she stopped doing that, then she started bragging to us about Max and Ben and Kyle and Keith, and for those of you, she did that all the time. She was so proud of all of us and loved us so much and was so generously giving of her praise and adoration, and she was so proud of the people that we were. So it truly was, a gift to be loved by Gladys. Gladys was born in Indianapolis, as I mentioned, on June 20th, 1935. She was, I believe, the 7th of 10 children, and her mother died when she was young, and she was raised by her 2 older sisters, Wilma and Beulah. She married in 1959 and then was blessed with the birth of her only child, her son Keith. The family moved to Southern California in the early 1960s, and not too long after that, Gladys and her husband divorced, and he, as Keith said, he left and we stayed in Southern California, and Gladys raised him there as a single mom. She was independent, strong-minded, could be termed feisty. She took care of business, and she did not put up with any shenanigans. She worked for many years for the Rapid Transit District, say that fast 3 times, Rapid Transit District, which was known at the time as the public transit system. And while she was working full-time, Gladys continued to expand her knowledge. She was always growing and stretching. So as Reverend Laura mentioned, Gladys became a practitioner in 1986, and she began her years of study to become a practitioner in her late 40s. And then after she finished that, in her early 50s, she went back to school and earned a bachelor's degree from Cal State LA. Shortly after that, she retired from the Rapid Transit District and packed up everything and moved to Las Vegas. And she started a new life here and a second career as a teacher in the Clark County School District and as a spiritual counselor teacher at the Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas. She was my teacher. She was my mentor and an inspiration as a lifelong learner and student of truth. When I asked my husband Lester, who she lovingly referred to as her son, how he would describe Gladys, he said, "Gladys is a force for good." She was more focused on others than herself. She provided a home for her grandson Kyle so that he could finish school here in Las Vegas. She moved her sister Wilma here to live with her, and Gladys cared for her until Wilma's transition, giving back the love and care that had been given to her as a young girl. Gladys lived in gratitude, and those of us who know her know how true that is. She was consciously and purposefully grateful for all the blessings in her life. And whenever she had a challenging time, she always turned to that gratitude and turned to what she could be grateful for. And would always say, "I invite you to know with me. I invite you to know with me." She was forgiving. I know that Gladys grew up at a time of segregation, that when desegregation happened, she was bused to a white school, I know that she had some challenging experiences in her life, and yet she had done so much work on herself and came to a place of acceptance and forgiveness that she was able to release resentment. And it lifted her into an experience of higher loving. She was so positive, as we all know, always looking for the truth, looking on the bright side, and she was curious. She was curious about life, she was curious about truth, and she was curious about people, particularly the people that she cherished. I have always experienced Gladys as a beautiful presence, inside and out. Her physical appearance is beautiful, fashionable, classy, vibrant, and elegant. She wore her trademark big earrings with style. Her smile lit up a room, her inner light and joy evident, and we can see that so beautifully in this picture that Mary took at Cindy's daughter's wedding. It captures her essence so beautifully, that picture. She exuded warmth and caring. Being in Gladys's presence was a safe place to be. It was a safe place to be, and it still is. Gladys trusted in Spirit, and she had great faith. In my second to last conversation with her in the hospital, she was expressing sadness and a little trepidation about being released from the hospital into a rehab facility and then into an apartment in an assisted living community, knowing that she wasn't going to be able to go home. I acknowledged her feelings, and I reminded her that God has always gone before her to make the crooked places straight. It's so evident in her life, and each physical move that she has made in her life. So we spent a few minutes reviewing how things always unfolded for her with grace and ease, and it was so evident that God went before her to prepare the way. And things unfolded in ways that she never could have planned. And I just asked her, Gladys, why would it be any different now? And she thanked me for reminding her, and we both felt the peace that knowing truth brings. It was a sacred moment. I felt her knowing. I felt her inner experience of the presence, her realization that it was safe for her to let go, to just stay present in each moment, and to trust life, life with a capital L, that she had trusted all along. We were steeped in peace and presence together, as we had been so many times over the years. We embraced and kissed one another. What we didn't know then was that her next big move would be her transition into the next experience, a different plane of existence. But I felt guided to share this story with you, and I know that Gladys would want me to have shared this with you, because in that moment with her in the room, the peace and the presence was there. I knew all was well, and I knew Gladys knew that. And that sacred moment, that holy moment that we shared, has brought me a lot of comfort since she passed, because I know that God does go before her and make the crooked places straight always. I will close with some wise and comforting words of Rumi. Death has nothing to do with going away. The sun sets, the moon sets, but they are not gone. And I know you are not gone, my beloved friend Gladys. Thank you for showing me and all of us how to love well and be loved well in return. I love you, Gladys. So now is the opportunity, if any of you feel called, to share your thoughts about Gladys or to share a special memory. I would ask that you be brief to allow enough time for everyone who might be called to share the opportunity to share. We have this microphone right here on the front, on the floor level. So if you feel called to share something, please step forward and I invite you to share. Thank you.
I wish I had brought salt for up here, because the last time I saw Gladys, all she wanted was salt. Can you just bring me some salt? She was kind of bossy that way. You guys probably know that about her. So I had to write it down so that I wouldn't cry through the whole thing. We're all here today to celebrate Gladys, and aren't we the lucky ones? I personally have had the privilege of knowing Gladys for over 1/4 of her life, not quite as long as Colleen was. She was exactly 30 years and 8 days older than me. Somehow she felt that gave her permission to mother me, which was okay most of the time. The rest of the time we tangled like most mother and daughters do. I think I was most tickled when we would go to her doctor's appointments for the first time together, and she would introduce me as her daughter. You cannot imagine the looks we got. 6'1" black woman, 5'7" blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman. The doctors just looked at us like we were crazy. And then in her perfect timing, she would say, I adopted her and she adopted me because we needed each other. And that was the truth. I always felt special and honored that she felt that way about me, because it was quite mutual. Most of the time, that is, except when she wouldn't listen to me. For 22 years, I had the honor of talking, listening, learning, arguing, and crying with that dear soul. She was such a wise woman and always had a unique way of looking at things. I think you would all agree that she was a wonderful practitioner. Over the years, I was privileged to be the beneficiary of much of her wise counsel. I was also privileged to spend time with her traveling in our early years. We traveled to agape conventions, women's retreats, and other fun trips. She enjoyed music. You could always see her boogieing in the aisle, you know. She just loved it. She loved the choirs. She loved Mortonette. She loved when Lynn would sing, We Let the Love Wash Over Us. I think that was probably her favorite song. I don't know about you, but I was at a conference with Ricky Beebe and Mortonette and Mary and June and I were all there, and Gladys was asked to participate on a panel of women who were over 70. So that any of the rest of us women in that group could ask her anything that we wanted, and anything went, let me just tell you. And I don't know when I have felt so much love and compassion and kindness and wisdom come from those women, and come especially from Gladys with the words that she shared, so many things she'd been through in her life, as Colleen shared before. It was truly a wonderful experience. In all the years that I knew Gladys, she continued to grow and learn and deepen her faith, just like the rest of us. She never stopped. She would join us for classes at Mortonette's when Mortonette was getting her doctorate, and we would all get together, and she was the student right along with all of us. And she was always wonderful with kids. I wonder how many kids' lives she touched. I mean, from what Reverend Laura said and Colleen, there have been so many I bet we can't even count. And she was always willing to let kids ask her anything. I remember many conversations around our kitchen table when Gladys would share with my 5 kids what it was like growing up being segregated. She was brutally honest, and when she shared what it was like to be bused to school, go to the back door and up the stairs in the movie theater, drink from separate water fountains. She just had a way of sharing it
with love and compassion, never any bad feelings about what happened to her, but just about what it was like and how much our country grew and how much she had to learn to love even more. And I know for my children, she touched their lives in ways that most people would not be touched. And I imagine those kids at the church camps, how much she changed their lives. Because, as you guys know, she probably was the biggest kid of all. You know, she was just there sharing her love and light, and I think lives were changed forever. In Gladys's later years, she had physical challenges. Her breathing suffered as a result of the tuberculosis that she'd had in her mid-20s. Then she had challenges with her heart. And 5 years ago, she had breast cancer, and she was a survivor. Every year in April, we'd celebrate on her anniversary when she was still cancer-free, and this year it was 5 years. Through all of the health challenges, she held firm to the perfection of spirit, trusting that all is in divine right order. God is good all the time was her mantra. I so admired the courage and bravery even when times were rough. Most of all, Gladys loved her friends and family. As Colleen shared earlier, her son Keith was the apple of her eye. His wife Ruth and their three grandchildren, also the apple of her eye. She would spend many of her holidays and vacations in Germany. Even going just a few years ago with oxygen in tow, she loved being with her family. There were countless days when she drove Kyle to college just so he could get to class. And then I know how special Ilana was to Gladys. She loved you like a grandchild. She loved all of her family and friends as though they were her own. She loved Luke and Dana, and they were her special godchildren. She talked about them all the time. As Colleen shared, she talked about everyone all the time because friends and family was her gig. She loved it. I could talk to you and go on and on and on because I loved her so much. She was like a second mom to me. And I am forever changed by having that sweet spirit in my life. Gladys's final wishes were to have her ashes spread both in the mountains and at the ocean. Mary, Heather, Lori, and I will be taking her to her final resting places as she requested later this year. Only love touches us if that's what we choose. Gladys was love straight from spirit, and we are each forever changed because she came into our lives. Her greatest wish for us would be that we all live in truth. May we always hold our memories of her close in our hearts. It's okay to shed a tear or laugh out loud when we think of our memories of her. When we see those long earrings on someone, we know they would have been Gladys's. After all, when we see those things and feel those things, that's just love touching us. And what a gift we have in those memories. May the next stop for her soul be as great as this one. I love you, Gladys.
Thank you, Cindy. If someone else would like to share a memory of Gladys.
How do you lower this? Oh. Hello, everybody. My name is Kay Logan. I met Gladys in 1955, and we were friends until she passed. I'd like to say that Gladys was one of my first friends. I met her in Indianapolis. She was one of the first people that I met when I got there, and we've been friends all these years. When Keith was born, she asked me to be his godmother, and I've been his godmother all these years. And when she was in the hospital, she was in the hospital for 3 years because she had TB. and I keep some of the time. And I've loved him from the day he was born, and I loved Gladys. We had our arguments, and we would make up, and then we'd have another argument, and we'd make up. And recently we had an argument, and we made up, but we always made up. And I'll miss her greatly. And she would talk about some of you all the time. She loved her church family, and she loved her friends. And I'd like to say to Keith that I'll always be here for him, because Gladys was my good friend. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Judy Ann Young, and I'll tell you my Gladys story. I had recently moved to Las Vegas, and somehow I met a woman in the Bay Area, and she invited me to attend a Revelations conference. She said, "You'll never be the same." So this was the first year that Revelations traveled, and it was actually going to be held in Oakland, California. And I sat at a table with some other sisters, and they said, "Well, where do you attend church?" And I said, "I don't. I live in Las Vegas, and I went to this one church, and they weren't real friendly." Gladys looked up, and she said, "Well, where was it?" I said, "It was over on Harmon." She says, "Well, I live in Las Vegas, so you come back to the church, and I will be there." I said, "But when?" She said, "I'm there every Sunday." So sure to her word, she said, "I will be there to greet you." I came in being just who I am, and she saw me and came over. And I stayed at that church for many years to come. What Gladys taught me was, and the things that we shared, was a sisterhood. She didn't have to filter anything when she spoke with me, from one black woman to another, and we would tell inside black folk jokes, and we would laugh about it. She said, "I'm just so glad, and I just wish more African Americans could find their way into New Thought and leave some of the dogma behind." So for the years to come, Gladys was a role model. When I decided to become a practitioner, I said, "Gladys, what am I getting into?" And she said, "You're getting into grace." And I said, "Oh, I can do that." I loved Gladys. I knew her from her agape family, and I knew she was special when her friend bought the place here so that Gladys would have a place to live. And even after her friend died, Gladys was assured of having a home. It doesn't get any better than that. So Gladys, thank you for being you. And thank you most of all for allowing me to be me.
Thank you, Reverend Judy Ann. Okay. So now I would like to invite Mortonette to come forward to remember Gladys with a special song. And while she's coming forward, I would like to thank Cindy Hallam and Reverend Laura Hallett for creating this beautiful slideshow with pictures of Gladys. So whenever you're ready.
My soul so weary when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to all that I can do. You raise me up when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to all that I can be. You raise me up. You raise me up so I can. You raise me up to walk on the. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up to all that I can be. Yeah, you raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on the stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up so that I can be. You raised us up, Gladys, to all that we can
You would know the secret of death. But how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? For life and death, they're one, even as the river and the sea are one. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Well, trust those dreams, because in them lies hidden the gate to eternity. For what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless ties? that may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you've reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when at last the earth has claimed your limbs, then shall you truly dance. Khalil Gibran, in his magnificent work, The Prophet. We are the life that lives in the body, that for a while has decided to take residence in a body to explore and navigate this planet. But when, for whatever reasons of illness or accident, the body is no longer a fit vehicle for the soul, the spirit moves on to the how much more. The body having nothing left to hold it together, to integrate it, disintegrates and ceases to be. My favorite quote of Dr. Ernest Holmes, whom many of you are familiar with, and his works, this center in the teaching of what were the churches of religious science, now the centers for spiritual living, and the teaching of the science of mind created by Dr. Holmes centuries ago. The key idea that I get from everything that I have read of him is that there is something within me, something within each one of us that merges with the infinite, and it draws back into its own soul, its own mind, its own experience, as much of God as it comprehends. There's something within you that merges with the infinite and draws back into your own soul, your own mind, your own experience, as much of life, as much of God, as much of spirit, as much of this planet as it can comprehend. And that something within you is guiding you and guarding you and protecting you and allowing you to have the joy of experiencing this body and this earth. Something within you that lets you know that you are one with everything and one with everyone. So you don't need to go to prepare to meet your God. You're meeting God every day in the sunrise and in the flowers and in a sanctuary like this. When you look into the eyes of your loved one, you're looking into the eyes of love that is God within you, within that person. I'm thinking of the inside of Wernher von Braun. He was a primary rocket scientist and aerospace engineer in the early ages of NASA. Mortnett knows something about that. Her husband, Lee, was also an aerospace physicist. Von Braun wrote, "Science has found that nothing disappears without a trace. Life energy merely changes form. Nature does not know extinction. All it knows is transformation. Life is, and it can't die." Transformation. I assume most of us had a drink of water today. Perhaps it was colored with a little coffee grounds or tea leaves or something. For some people, it's something a little bit stronger to begin their day. But think of water. You heat it up It's steam. The hot water can burn your hand. The steam can burn your face if you get too close to it. You can take that hot water, you can put it into a little aluminum tray with little sections in it, shove it into the freezer, and you get ice cubes. Here in Las Vegas, you take that ice cube and you put it out on the sidewalk in front of your house and let the sun get to it. What happens? It melts. It evaporates. It goes up into the clouds, up into the atmosphere. Who knows, maybe a day or two later, it's over our headquarters in Golden, Colorado, and snowflakes are coming down off of that little ice cube that you melted on your sidewalk. Everything's all together, all the time. It's all one. And so Willie Nelson had this to say. I've quoted Werner von Braun, a scientist. I've quoted Ernest Holmes. Now I'm going to get down to earth with Willie. When he was asked about the suicide of his son Billy, he said, "Death is not the ending of anything." I would do Willie's voice, only I'm not very good at impressions, so I'll skip that part and save you. I believe all of us are only energy that becomes matter, and when the matter goes away, the energy still exists. You can't destroy it. It never dies. It manifests itself somewhere else. Pause. We're never alone. Even by ourselves, we are never alone. Death is just a door opening to somewhere else. And someday, we'll know what that door opens to. I believe that. I really do. End of Willie. It's impossible for the world to destroy what God has created. And so I say to life, I say to the world, you can take my body, but you can't take my soul. You can take my breath, but you cannot take my life. I continue to live on. Now, I find myself wondering sometimes why, if in our faith we know that the person is still living, still existing in spirit, we speak so frequently in the past tense in a memorial service. I wonder why I do that. Gladys, Stretch, I'm speaking to you now. I know you're here. I love the fact that if someone is into looking at you for the first time and they notice your body, they see this person who is tall and elegant. And if they look into your eyes, they see your presence. They see your spirit. They see your love. You know that my name for you is Stretch. It's the same as a woman that I dated many years ago, who's now married to my best friend from back in those days, who described herself as being 5'13" in her bare feet. Stretch, that was you. Cindy and Colleen have talked about the earrings. Nobody could pull it off like you could. You didn't have a smile to me. You had a grin. You had an interesting, impish grin, because that was at the heart and the soul of you. So your essence is still vibrant and still alive and still experiencing, and who knows where you are. You're probably both here, and you're with Keith and his family over in Germany at the same time right now, simultaneously. But we honor you for having shared your life with us. You're alive and well and expressing. One thing that I know, I'm going to break in here and say, Gladys, I know that you became the practitioner that you are because you studied with Dr. Dan Morgan, the same as Michael Beckwith and others who've come up under Dr. Dan's wings, including myself and El Marie. Dr. Dan was our mentor. He was the teacher and mentor of Gladys and Michael and the others who were at Guidance Church back in the day. Much of this science of mind teaching and philosophy, I believe. Some of it I know. What I know is this, and I've known it since I was 7 years old. My mother passed. And the family and the friends were crying and wailing, and they'd been there. They'd come from Virginia and Kansas and California to Nebraska to be there for her final days, and they'd been waiting for it, and it happened, and they're all crying and wailing, and it went on for hours. And I couldn't understand it, because I knew my mom was okay. I've always known that. That's one thing that I absolutely know, that who and what we are is pure spirit, and it's alive and it's well, whether it's in this body or not, whether it's somewhere else. And I kind of think that when we are somewhere else, we're everywhere all at once. I have been with people when they have been close to making their transition, and you see the individual and their faces all tense with the pain, with the discomfort, sometimes maybe with the fear. But then comes that moment. I can remember singing someone over, using an Alliance song, "You're an angel, you're a being of light." And her face just softened, and all the tension left. I've talked to people who have died on the operating table, been brought back to life. They're down looking at their body, and the doctor's working over it, and they feel free and vibrant. And then they're back in the body, and they feel heavy, they feel trapped in that body. Because for a little while they were free. Free spirit roaming the earth. So, if you're wondering what's going to happen when that time comes for you, it's going to be a good experience. It has something joyous to look forward to be free of the body for a little while. And I don't remember the exact words. I've got them down there in my briefcase. Colleen did a memorial service for Ruth Ann, and there was an Aboriginal saying there, something about the effect that we're here on this earth and we come into this body and we're supposed to learn and we're supposed to love and we're supposed to serve, and then when we're done, we go back home. That's our journey here, to prepare ourselves to love one another and then go back home. And our livingness, our real livingness, is in each other. Gladys, you have in your mind and in your thoughts, you've got each one of us. You have our picture. You have the experiences that we've shared with you. And we have that of you. When I'm going to break in here and say that Emery's sorry that she couldn't make it this morning at the last minute. She needed to stay home, but she wanted to express my greetings to all of you and her appreciation for being asked to do the opening prayer. When I left home, got in the car, drove over here, I don't know if I'm ever going to see her again, but I've got her here. I've got her here in my mind and my heart. That's all we ever have of anyone. We may think that they're our friend and we're going to see him again. We don't know. And so our job is to say, I love yous. Our job is to say, I forgive you. Our job is to say, I forgive myself for what I've done or haven't done that I wished I had or had not done with you. That's our job, especially in a memorial service, especially in a celebration of life. If there was anything ever stretched that I said to you, I don't remember what it was, but if I ever said anything that ticked you off, I'm sorry. I apologize. I love you. Tom Costa. Emery and I, Dr. Tom Costa was the pastor of the church in Palm Desert, California. He said this: don't put a question mark where God has put an exclamation point. Okay? Gladys, we're not going to put a question mark on why you had to leave and leave now. And I trust that Keith and the family and everyone else knows that what God did was put an exclamation point on your life. Once more from Gibran. I go with the wind, dear ones, and if this day is not a fulfillment of your needs and of my love, well, then let it be a promise till another day. A man's needs change, but not his love, nor the desire that his love should satisfy his needs. Your heart beats, they were in my heart. And your breath was upon my face, and I knew you all. Oftentimes, I was a lake among the mountains. I mirrored the summits in you and the bending slopes and even the passing flocks of your thoughts and your desires. Martinette sounds like the songs you've been singing. I say to you this from my current understanding. You are not enclosed within your body. Now, this is Stretch. This is you talking to us right now. I say this to you from my current understanding. You are not enclosed within your bodies, nor confined to houses or fields. That which is you dwells above the mountain and rose with the wind, a free spirit that envelops the earth and moves in the ether. So farewell to you and to the youth that I have spent with you. It was but yesterday that we met in a dream. And if in the twilight of memory we should meet once more, we shall speak again together. And you shall sing to me a deeper song.
I have to say this. I want to thank you, Gladys, because I too know that you're here, for encouraging me to get my doctorate degree when I was like, ooh, this is too hard. And, ooh. She was like, no, you can do it, and you will do it, and I did do it. And I thank you for that so much. I thank you for being the inspiration for the book that I'm writing. I've been writing it for like 10 years now. Cindy, Gladys, Nicole, and I went out to hear Earl Turner, who was one of Gladys's favorite singers, for her birthday. And that night, I had a spiritual revelation happen to me at the concert. And if it wasn't for Gladys's birthday, I wouldn't have been there. And so I thank you again for allowing me that precious moment. And I love you very much. Amazing grace, was grace that taught my heart to feel. Ooh, grace took away my fears. Oh, how precious it was when grace appeared. The very hour that I first believed. Now I can say, peace, be still. Grace gave her peace. Oh, how precious grace is. I was lost, and blind. I'm found, and now I can see that same old grace has led her safely on home. I said that same old grace has led us safely on home. Now I can say, peace, be still. Grace gave her peace. She's still, peace. Gladys. Peace. Grace. Now that same old grace has led her safely on home.
That was amazing, Martin. Thank you so much. Thank you, Reverend Richard, for your beautiful message. It was inspiring, comforting, and a powerful reminder of the truth. So I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to Reverend Stacy Hilton and Reverend Cheryl Bell, who are ministers here at the center, for generously allowing us to use this space to celebrate Gladys. So I thank them very much. I want to thank again Mortonette, Reverend Richard, and Reverend Laura for your loving contributions. It is always, always a joy to collaborate with each one of you. I know that each one of you gave from your heart and from a place of deep appreciation and gratitude for Gladys. So I thank you so much for that. And I'm deeply grateful to you, Cindy, for being such a loving, supportive, and devoted friend to Gladys, and to being such a support to Keith when he was here from Germany in the last weeks of her life. Cindy and I worked together to make sure that the celebration service fulfilled Gladys's wishes. So thank you. So in the foyer out here at the back of the sanctuary, Cindy and Mary O'Reilly have provided and set up refreshments for all of us. And so there'll be some coffee, water, and some cookies. Cindy did get Gladys's favorite cookies, which are the triple ginger snaps from Trader Joe's, and they go quite well with coffee or water. I just want to share with you the first day that Lester and I went up to the hospital to see Gladys, I brought her a little box of the ginger snaps. She said, "Oh my God, these are my favorite cookies." I said, "I know, that's why I brought them." So So we put them to the side, and then a little later on that evening, our son went to see Gladys. And after he saw her, he called me. He said, "Mom, I stopped at Trader Joe's on my way up there and got Gladys an orchid and some triple ginger snaps." He said, "And when I got there, there was already a box there." I said, "Well, because I brought them." So we all knew that's what she loved. And I can tell you she did enjoy those cookies. I know that she did. So we have them here today to honor Gladys because they were her faves. So please join us for that. Something that we do in our center at the end of our Sunday services is what we call chamber prayer, where we invite the ministers and practitioners to stand and surround the sanctuary. This is something that Gladys participated in for decades. And so at this time, I would like to invite the practitioners and ministers who are present here today to just spread out across the front of the sanctuary here. And we're going to send Gladys off with a chamber prayer. So chamber prayer really is just when a group of people stand up and make a circle and pray out loud together spontaneously. So this is our way of honoring Gladys, her service as a practitioner, and blessing her ongoing life. So I'm going to step down from here and step down and join you all, and then we will begin our chamber prayer to send Gladys on her way. Beloved Spirit, I give thanks for the life of Gladys Hudson. I know that you have blessed so many of us, and we are so deeply grateful for it. I know that life is eternal, and that you live on and on and on, continuing to bless and grace the lives of all of those that were important to you. I know that Spirit goes before you, and that your ongoing life is a glorious experience and an expansion of your life forever and ever expanding. I know that there is comfort for all the people here who love you, and I know that you bring them comfort as you go. And so I give thanks for your beautiful life, for the way that you blessed each and every one of us. And I am so grateful for your life, your presence, and your gifts. And forever it is so, and so it is.
All that we have experienced. Take all of this, bow it high, press it down, and shake together. And release it into the heart of God, where I know it is heard.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
So be it.
Thank you so much. I know Gladys appreciates that. So again, I just want to thank you all for being here today. It's, for me personally, so healing to have the opportunity to come together and celebrate someone that we loved so much, who was such a positive light in all of our lives and will continue to be. So thank you so much for making the effort to come here today so that we could all be together to celebrate Gladys. And I want to thank you, Gladys, for being a lifelong friend, for being someone who cared so much for our children and loved them so well and loved us all so well. She is such a light, and I feel her presence all the time, and I know that she will continue to love me and guide me for the rest of my days, and for that I'm grateful. Your life, Gladys, inspires us to remember what's most important and to live that. And that is love. It's love. Years ago, it was decades ago, I was in the sanctuary at our church on Harmon at a celebration of life service. And we had the opportunity to share like we did today. And Gladys stood up and she said, so-and-so had lived such an amazing life, she thought that we should all stand up and give them a standing ovation. And that was the first time that I'd ever seen that, and Gladys instigated that. And since that first time that I saw Gladys do that, I have done that at many services, and I thought it was a kick-ass thing to do, I have to say. And so I invite all of you to please stand, and let's give our beloved Gladys a standing ovation for a life well lived. We love for being ever present with us, like Reverend Richard said, everywhere present at once because you're freed from your body. And I know that's true, that she's with each and every one of us. Every time we turn to her, she is there, continuing to bless us and love us. So thank you so much. Namaste.